you're, phenomenal brain researcher and an expert on the brain. It didn't come easy to you, and you had your own life struggles that you had to use the brain science like I did in order to overcome some of the shit that goes on in life. How's that?
That sounds about right. Yeah, absolutely.
Got it. So you're a human, and so I want to ask you a question, because this whole program, this year's theme is change your brain, change your income, change your life. It's about getting rid of limitations, getting rid of obstacles, and finally feeling like you could be unstoppable. So first and foremost, as a brain expert, can we change, or are we just going to be spectators in the repetitiveness of our life till we die?
The answer is obviously yes, of course. And there's this fancy word that people probably have heard about, and it's all about neuroplasticity. Neuroplasticity is our brain's capacity to make new connections, to create new brain cells. But long story short, it comes down to our capacity to learn new things, to adapt, to change. And we all can do that, from the babies, even in the womb, until advanced age. I believe the latest research I found about that was they did studies with people over 70 years old, and they were still finding new brain cells being created and new connections being made. Actually, every single day, every single night, through when our brain goes into maintenance mode during the night, you see these new connections being made, and it's very exciting to see that we are not a finished product. Our brain constantly continues to adapt and evolve, and it's basically, there is no limitation. We can always, at any time, any age, any difficulty we have in our life, we can make it better. We can improve it. It's exciting.
So the old saying, you can't teach an old dog new tricks, is wrong. Everybody, yes, you can teach the old dog new tricks, but the dog has to want to learn. All right, so that's number one.
I was about to say that.
Yeah, so that's number one.
I was about to say exactly that. The dog needs to want it.
Yeah, so how many of you want to change so you can change your life? Just type in the chat right now. And on that note, let's say we have tens of thousands of people say, yes, I want to change. Let's take your neuroplasticity. I know you have 3 rules for neuroplasticity. Let's go.
Yeah, 3 rules for neuroplasticity. The first one is very simple. The first rule of neuroplasticity goes like this. We become better at whatever we repeat and focus on. Both sides are important. So whatever we repeat every day and what we focus on. So if you repeat something without focusing, it won't work. If you focus on something but just once, it won't work either. Repetition and focus are important. Now, this has got some important implications. You have to understand that if you come home from work and you start binge watching Netflix every night, you will become really good at knowing all the characters in whatever series you're watching. So the thing is, our brain actually doesn't have a moral compass. It does not care from what you're becoming good at. The only thing it will notice is, oh, he's doing this over and over again, so it must be important, so let's be more efficient at it. And that's exactly what's happening with the brain. Efficiency, no moral compass, doesn't care. So if you're doing things that are not helpful for you, let's say you procrastinate, you actually become really good at being a procrastinator if you do this over and over and over again. And that's true for all kinds of bad habits. Smoking. I used to smoke up to 2 packets a day. Now, smoking is slightly different because it's also, you have the addictive part of it, but still, you become better at it, and it reinforces these habits, and everything becomes automated, and you don't even think about it anymore. So you have to be very careful about, you have almost a moral obligation towards yourself, towards what you're going to choose. What you're going to choose, you want to focus and repeat, right? Because that choice is not for free. It bears strong consequences.
Love it. Can I interject for just a second? So let's unpack that for just a moment. So if I'm affirming to myself that I'm not good enough, I'm not smart enough, I don't deserve this. If I keep affirming what I don't want, if I keep focusing on that I'm not smart enough or good enough or skilled enough, that means that I am activating or reinforcing patterns of negativity. Is that right?
You're absolutely right. That's exactly how it works. Not only that, but it's not only about believing. If our brain works on 3 levels, with the, we talked about this before, about behavior, emotions, and thoughts. So if your thoughts are like that, it will impact both your emotions and your behaviors. It's this triangle. And so yes, it has a huge impact.
So if I repeat the things that I learned in childhood, and if I repeat a lie, if I reinforce something that's not real, like a belief that's limiting me, my brain becomes good at making that belief my reality, which affects my emotions and my behaviors, is what I just heard from you.
It becomes true, yeah.
Got it. So number one rule is we have to affirm, declare, promise over and over and over again what we want to believe versus maybe our current reality. Is that a thumbs up?
Yeah, sure.
Love it. Okay, let's go to point number 2. I know you have 3 rules of neuroplasticity. We got the first one. I'm clear. Everybody who's watching is clear. Everybody, if you're clear, type in "I'm clear" in the chat.
So the second rule of neuroplasticity is also known as Hebb's law or Hebb's rule, and it comes down to neurons that fire together wire together. Now this it was initially understood with memory. Actually, when you want to learn something, remember something, it's easier to remember 2 related things than 1 isolated thing, right? So for example, if you have to remember a strange name or a place, it's easier for you if you put it in an already existing network of neurons in your brain, in your memory, and link it there with all the information available, rather than put it just in like an isolation chamber and just hope that somehow magically you will remember it. So neurons that fire together wire together. Now this has other implications, and it's really interesting to see. Because everything we do, it means that our brain is actually way better when we're able to amass more information. The more links there are, the more connections there are between the information we have, the better. The easier it is for us to remember it. And so it means that our brain is actually made for specialization. We're better at, when we focus on something and repeat it and create all these connections, it's easier for us to become a specialist, an expert in our field, or whatever the area is that is of interest to us, rather than being an all-rounder. Touching a little bit of everything will make it much harder to become really good at whatever your job is. And if you really hone in and focus in on one thing and get to know everything there is to know about that one thing, actually our brain is hardwired to do that second thing. To be really good at know everything or very much, a lot of things about something very precise. So, yeah, the logical question here is, what is your specialization, right? What is it that you want to focus on? What is it that you want to become an expert at and get unstuck in your life or be able to move forward?
Let me ask you a question. So,
go ahead.
So again, if somebody wants to, and I'm going to call it break the habit of being themselves right now, if they're not achieving the results they want, and they want to affirm, visualize, emotionalize a new reality, new beliefs, new habits, new behaviors, new expectations, what I'm hearing you say is fire those neurons and wire them together and repeat that over and over and over again. And by doing that, your brain creates the connections, the associations, whether it's with colors you like or numbers that you like or anything that you already have a neural pattern. You link those patterns together and then that becomes, what I call is your new way of thinking, new way of feeling, new way of being. Is that a good description of some of the ways you can use this?
Yeah, absolutely. And you're working a lot with vision boards and visualization. Actually, when you visualize something, neurons are fired together, wired together. Make it as rich as possible. You make it as tangible as possible and link it to things that you already have in your life. So make it real. For example, you want a beautiful car. Well, imagine you're in the car and you're driving the car. And if the car, smell the new leather if you want leather in it. And if you can get the roof off, well, just picture yourself with the wind in your hair. I don't know, something like that. Make it as real as possible and link it to your existing experience. Yeah.
Love it. Yeah. One of the things that I teach is visualization is simulation. And the more you simulate, the more you strengthen. And so that's part of the visualization process, which I've been doing for 41 years. There's another thing that I know you and I talked about, and it's the third rule. And I think you said it best, and you said it's the use it or lose it rule. Is that the correct third one?
Use it or lose it principle is very straightforward. If you stop doing certain things, the connections in your brain will disconnect. It will wither away, because our brain, have to understand it. It's like premium real estate, and every single square inch is useful and is used. And if you don't use something, well, your brain goes every night. It goes into maintenance mode, and we'll see hey, we didn't use this for a certain amount of time. Let's just mark it. And then the next time it comes back, hey, this was marked. It still hasn't been used. Well, let's start to unconnect it and see what happens. And usually nothing happens, and that's how we forget things and unlearn habits, etc., etc.
Okay, so let me make sure that I get it. So let's say I lose my limiting beliefs because I choose not to focus on those, and I focus on new empowering beliefs. The more I lose those limiting beliefs or don't use them, the more the new ones get reinforced, correct?
Yeah, that's a basic of neuroplasticity. I love to use the image of the highway. So basically, when we create a new connection, it's like a little path. And the more we use that new connection, the stronger it becomes. The more that path becomes wider and bigger. And the moment this new path overtakes the old path that is shriveling, that is starting to become smaller, the moment it becomes bigger, it demands each time less effort to go to that new path. And at one point it becomes like an information highway, and the old path that used to be the big one is just on the sides, and you don't use it anymore. You don't go there anymore.
Love it. And this is where rule number 1 comes into play, where you need to repeat and focus. So you create the highway, you reinforce it, and the other one just withers away and you don't use it as much. And that's really the science of changing your mind, changing your beliefs, your habits, and your behaviors. Which leads me to a couple other things. When we are changing, I've often said that most people would prefer to master disappointment and mastering, staying the same in their comfort zone versus mastering change. And one of the things that we know is true is change can be uncomfortable. Change can activate fear, right? Can you help us understand? Yeah, Go ahead.
Our brain doesn't like change. Our brain doesn't like change. It's dangerous. You have to understand that our brain evolved for hundreds of thousands of years in an environment where there were, I heard you talk about saber-toothed tigers. I usually talk about bears and wolves, but that's the thing. Yes, those animals were there, and it was dangerous. And even just like losing, you go for a walk and you don't remember how to get back, and because you took a new path, that's dangerous. It could be game over. I mean, at least it was like that 100,000 years ago. Today, it's still that same brain with those same survival instincts, because that's what it is, and it triggers fears. It triggers our propensity for not going to do something new. Our brain is, and our brain is also wired to use as little energy as possible, and so it doesn't like when we use more energy. And changing, using new neural pathways demands a lot of energy because we have to override the old pathway. And so our brain is designed to not liking that. With my clients, I used to say, with my students, I like to say that, you know what, when you feel inside yourself that there's like, that you don't want to do something, it's a very good indication that you should do it.
Got it. And when that fear circuit is activated, I talked earlier about, networks and circuits. When the fear circuit is activated, there's the 3 F's you need to be aware of. Let's talk about those 3 F's. And we've probably got about 2 minutes to get those in.
Okay. We've got fear is based on the fight, flight, and freeze syndrome, right? So when we're getting stressed, where we're getting preoccupied because something is happening, we can react in 3 modes, and only 3 modes actually. So there's the fight, where we become aggressive and physically, verbally can start to become aggressive and say things we later regret. The flight is when we get all nervous, we want to flee, we literally want to run away, but usually that's not possible. So you start to, I don't know, you're fiddling with your fingers and everything, and you can't stay at one place and stuff like that. The freeze one is when you feel all demoralized, and you feel like nothing's going to work for you. And that's a freeze one, which basically takes out the wind in your sails, you're not able to move anymore and just make yourself little and feel depressed.
So as you know, we have 2 other experts or several other experts on this Brainathon, and we're talking about emotions and fear and sabotage or procrastination and all these things. Do you have any techniques that you could give people that are watching right now on, when they're sabotaging or procrastinating or feeling afraid of failing or being embarrassed or rejected or ashamed or ridiculed or judged? Is there a technique, let's just maybe have time for one technique that they could start using today?
Oh, what I use all the time when I feel pushed against the ropes and I feel there's a problem for anything, big or small, it's reframing. Reframing is one of the most powerful techniques there is, to me at least. So basically it means that you need to see your situation from a different perspective and different spotlight. So very much in line with what we've been discussing here today is actually when I lost my last job and I was about to start the Brain Academy, my company. Well, I was afraid because I had already had 4 times I had tried to start a company, a startup, etc. And 4 times I had failed. I had bankruptcy, I had debts and everything. It took me sometimes, one time, the last time, it took me years to get out of that. And so I felt the urge inside, the desire, the burning desire to start something new, but I was afraid. It was holding me back because I thought, I'm not good at being an entrepreneur. It's not working for me. And then this magical thing happened. It was fantastic. I somehow on YouTube, I saw this interview. There was this one interviewer and there were like 6 or 7 people, multimillionaires who had started their own business and were extremely successful. And at one point, the interviewer was asking, so at one point in your life, you had this idea to start this company, you started it and you were successful and you made millions. And all these guys started to laugh. They were like, no, that's not how it worked. And the first guy went like, no, I failed like 6 times. The other, me 10 times. And the other one went like, I went bankrupt like 20 times. And my jaw just went like, oh my God. The problem is not that I failed 4 times. The problem is I did not fail enough. I had to fail more times to be successful. There wasn't a single one of those guys who said, I became a millionaire the first time or second time or even the 4th time. So actually, for me, this is my 5th venture, and I'm lucky because it took me only 4 times that I failed. The 5th time was a good one. So that's the power of reframing. At one point, you have this limiting belief that I cannot go further, I cannot do this because I will fail. And then suddenly you understand something. There was a missing link of information, a missing piece of information that actually flips everything upside down and goes like, You idiot, you didn't try enough.
Isn't that great? That
Yeah,
is
so
really
that's
the
my
power.
story. That's how I started Brain Academy and got where I am today. Never looked back.
I love it. And I know over 400,000 students have been through your programs, and that is awesome. There's a process that I teach called the 4R process, and it's recognize, whether it's thoughts, emotions, feelings, sensations, behaviors, results, then reframe, release, and retrain your brain. And that's a skill that we teach all of our clients. Well, listen, my friend, it's been so good to have you on the 10th annual Brainathon. I look forward to having you, as part of our faculty and doing many things together over the years. And everybody, if you do me a favor right now, in the chat, just give Gregory a huge round of applause and thank you. Gregory, it's been awesome having you on the Brainathon, and I look forward to connecting some more. Absolutely outstanding. Talked about neuroplasticity, talked about the rules of neuroplasticity, talked about the 3 F's, and some reframing techniques. Thank you so much, Gregory. You have an amazing rest of your day.
Thank you, John. Take care and hope to see you soon. Bye.
Awesome.